engaged in going to protests or anything like that. She describes her reaction to what she saw as overly progressive values being imposed on her in the setting of her prep school and then also
progressive values imposed on her.
Loomer told you that she has
I don't think progressive values can be imposed on people.
12, that her father enrolled Loomer and her other brother in boarding school because their parents were afraid that home could be an unsafe environment. Was that because of her brother's mental health problems? Like, do you know what made home unsafe?
Loomer describes a very chaotic and, in her telling, sometimes violent environment in which her brother's outbursts consumed the household. And so her father, as she tells it, felt most comfortable sending his other two children to boarding school to be able to focus on the one child who was in need of more care, and then also, in Laura's telling, to sort of protect her and her other brother from that environment. And so they go off to the school in the Arizona desert where she describes an intense feeling of isolation. There was a curfew for phone calls, there was no internet, there were very few people there. And I think, to me, it sort of conjured the initial sense of being cut off from the world, from her family. Even all these years before, she's really cut off from the internet, and I think describes kind of almost a continuation of the sense that she's just completely cast out on her own with no way of accessing conversation.
So we know that Laura Loomer was asked to seek therapy.
I wish she was cast out now without any way of having conversation.
Karen Giorno, who was a Trump advisor who had led Trump's Florida operations through the 2015 primary, she was tapped to run a congressional campaign for Loomer. And Giorno accepted under the conditions that Loomer agree not to lie about other candidates, meet with a psychiatrist once a quarter, and stay on her meds. What do you know about that?
So I think this has been something that Loomer always phrases in such different terms from those who speak about her. Loomer describes a sense of being driven basically to the point that she snapped after she was banned from social media. And in that time period, she's doing cocaine a lot. She threatens to drive her car off a cliff. It's a period which she describes as, incredibly riddled by anxiety and depression, and a sense of what she later goes on to say, PTSD, which she sought therapy for. Her campaign manager, however, describes, being asked to run this race for Loomer and having an intense skepticism of her, partly for her fringe views and partly for the sense that she wasn't calibrated to kind of run a campaign in public and comport herself in the manner that, you'd want a candidate to be able to.
Well, a MAGA candidate, though.
But Giorno imposes the conditions that you brought up.
Don't you want them to be as crazy as possible?
In her telling, by the time Laura runs the second time in 2022, had stopped honoring those conditions, and that was kind of the beginning of her divorce from any notion of being brought into the party, because she would lash out constantly at all other Republicans and even different operatives who have gone on to work in very high-ranking roles in the White House. I think she put them off intensely during that period of possible intense distress emotionally, or possibly just a personality that is at odds with group work.
What were her first contacts?
Maybe she's just a terrible bitch.
When Loomer was in college at Barry University in Miami, she starts to carry out these kind of quasi-political stunts. And she's invited to a conference hosted by David Horowitz, the conservative writer, at the Breakers in Palm Beach. And at that conference, she recalls meeting James O'Keefe, the founder of Project Veritas, the kind of undercover sting operation that will take videos of people without them knowing to then, in many cases, show a sort of hypocrisy of liberalism, to summarize it broadly. And Loomer's first contact with the right, I think, is in these fringier circles of people like these Veritas operatives who then she seeks out saying, I want to work with you and I want to. By then she's been Loomering people. She describes wanting to conduct her own kind of public humiliation stunts, but in the context of an official job. And so she starts working with O'Keefe's organization to, for example, go around New York City in the aftermath of Eric Garner's murder by doing things like filming his family undercover in a taxi, getting them to say that Al Sharpton, who's organizing the protests against Garner's murder, is all about the money. So we see her coming into politics not through any traditional kind of desire to be in electoral politics, but much more the kind of
exploiting racism,
rabble-rousing, out in the open, stunt-based politics that has come to color much of what the right is good at doing.
And deceptive. Project Veritas was famous for people going undercover, wearing disguises, and falsely representing who they were, videoing with hidden cameras responses to the Project Veritas questions, then taking them sometimes out of context and spreading them online to get those people in trouble, to get the organizations in trouble. And there were organizations that were liberal, supported abortion. I think Planned Parenthood was one of those organizations, right?
I think it's the beginning of seeing Loomer publicly distort and recast truths to represent the truth that she wants to put forth.
distort and recast truths to put forth the truth. That's a lot of words for lie.
Worldview. She's trained in that kind of guerrilla warfare.
So after a successful stunt for Project Veritas, she takes a Veritas camera and uses it to troll her own college by talking to administrators and suggesting that the college start an ISIS club, which is sympathetic students in support of the Islamic State. Tell us more about that stunt and what the outcome was.
Sure. So I think fresh off of what she would cast as a victory in New York with Project Veritas, she returns to her university kind of armed with this camera and with this, I guess you could call it skill set that she wants to start using on her own. She secretly records these interactions with administrators who are, as university administrators can be wont to do, kind of patiently and slightly indulgently humoring the students' ideas for a club that is meant to be sympathetic to ISIS, and they're kind of pushing her to make it more about humanitarian work in the Middle East. And these long interactions are captured on her secret camera, leading to her expulsion. However, what's unsuccessful at her university is in fact very successful elsewhere, and James O'Keefe begins to replicate a very similar version of that script at other universities around the country. And so when a different Veritas operative is implementing that script at Cornell, it becomes sort of a newsworthy enough moment that Sean Hannity features it on his show, and Trump, watching Hannity then, in 2015, not having yet announced his run for president, boxes James O'Keefe and says, "Why don't you come and meet with me? I like what you're doing." And they meet in Trump Tower and discuss
Welcome
other
back.
things. And Loomer, in her telling, was invited to that meeting with the president, but could not attend because she was waylaid in Florida with paperwork to do with her expulsion.
Oops, you've been
And
waylaid.
so, although she couldn't come,
No clue here.
she felt already like, I'm on my way. I'm going to be soon someone who not only interacts with Donald Trump, but goes to the Oval Office. And she recalls thinking this before Trump has even announced his run.
Well, let me introduce you again. If you're just joining us, my guest is Antonia Hitchens. She's a staff writer for The New Yorker, and her latest article is called Laura Loomer's Endless
Oh, good.
Payback. We'll be right back.
I'll get
This
you
is
dirty
Pat
later.
Support comes from Cooper Heating and Cooling, providing HVAC, plumbing, and electrical services across the Front Range since 1970. Technicians available 24 hours a day, 360 days a year. CooperGreenTeam.com.
How are you doing?
Support comes from Dovetail Solutions, celebrating 2 decades providing communications,
Slow at work.
public affairs services, including crisis and issues management. Online at dovetailsolutions.com.
Good.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for individuals in a variety of career fields who want to help build a
wanna
culture
see
of
Denver?
inclusiveness. More information,
Well.
including application, at progressive.com/careers.
You can't really
From
see it.
Uma,
I should have
a
showed it
cloud-based
earlier.
phone service for any size business,
But
with an automated virtual receptionist, video meetings.
it's gone down below the horizon now.
To customers and coworkers anywhere. Uma.com/NPO.
This is Fresh Air. Let's get back to my interview with Antonia Hitchens, staff writer for The New Yorker. Her latest article is called Laura Loomer's Endless Payback. What's it like to talk with her? You spent many hours talking with her.
It's the experience almost of talking to the
a
internet. Most of kind of normal cadence and rhythm of conversation and back and forth, I think, is interrupted by the sense that, one, she was banned for so long that she's almost breathless trying to get in everything she wants to say.
She was banned
As
for
though
so
there's
long
like a
she could
hangover
still
from the
talk.
years when she couldn't speak.
She
And
could
then also
speak.
everything is cast in
She
this
was
kind
just
of
banned from a
very
platform or two.
intense way of things that are trending on the internet that, to the untrained eye, to someone without a cell phone, don't even have the kind of currency or intensity of the way she's speaking about them, so it can be incredibly disorienting.
Can you describe her home? Or is that too personal for her that you don't want to talk about it?
Who cares about what's personal to Laura fucking Loomer?
Her lifestyle or personality.
So
Like,
Loomer
why do you have
conducts most of
sympathy
her
for
work
goddamn
from
Nazis?
home,
That
where
makes
she
you a
has
Nazi
her Rumble studio
sympathizer.
set up in a converted bedroom. But once the lights go off in there, the rest of the home is just a normal home. It's not kind of dressed up to be the home of a prominent figure in American life. There are 4 dogs who are created to eat dinner so they don't fight over each other's food. 4 dog gates on most of the rooms to make sure the dogs were off the furniture. The furniture had blankets on it for the dogs.
Maybe those dogs need to be
There's a home
rescued.
gym where she can walk on the treadmill while taking long phone calls.
Maybe
but
that
her
treadmill
professional
needs to
life
be
very much
rescued.
takes place across the backdrop of a
Maybe that phone needs to be
pretty casual
rescued.
domestic setting.
Maybe that house needs to be
One
rescued
of her
from Laura
4
Loomer.
dogs, she named Loomer. It sounds a little odd for Laura Loomer to have a dog she named Loomer.
But there's so
and
much to
have
talk
say,
about
like,
Laura Loomer.
"Sit,
Is it
Loomer,"
worth?
or whatever she says
Is it
to
worth
the dog.
spending time
Do you
on
know
her
why she named
dogs?
her dog Loomer?
Having spent a little bit of time with her, it seemed so obvious that she would name her
She's
dog Loomer. I was
narcissist.
almost surprised the others weren't named Loomer, but they came pre-named because they were rescued.
Why are you not surprised?
You can change their names.
She's
when you
not
rescue
subtle
them.
in the intensity with which she wants to cast herself as the main character in her life.
Dogs
Having
are more
another
important than
creature in your home
Trump-ears.
with your same name wouldn't be destabilizing so much as I think comforting.
So one of Laura Loomer's platforms now is her show on Rumble, which is called Laura Loomer Unleashed. And her show started in a very unusual
Is it about
way.
her or about her dog?
Like, one episode that I was watching had an over 20-minute long
Rescue
section
those
at
dogs.
the very beginning with the caption "Stand by." Do you have any insights into why her show starts with a standby for over 20 minutes where all you see is images of her at home and in various places? Like, why not start the show when the actual
Build
show
an
starts?
audience, because why talk to
Loomer
nobody?
has been very much keen to articulate to me over the course of my time reporting on her that she is a one-woman show. She has no one working with her. She has a
Because no one will
Capitol
work
Hill
with her.
correspondent who's in Washington, kind of occasionally
Well,
luring
Putin works
members
with her.
by just jumping out from behind a pole or something. And then she has a team of producers remotely who help her with, the lights for her show and her at-home studio.
I
But
have to shut it off
Loomer
soon, but
Unleashed is very
thanks.
much it's a Laura production. And so there's a sense of kind of non-finito ragtag, I'm pulling this together myself, to her content, which I think, tonally bears some resemblance to the long screeds she posts on Twitter. I think